Good morning, everyone. It sounds like a natural lull, so that's a good place to start. So my name's Jodie Turner, and I work in Human Resources here at the university. And you're at the 10 o'clock session, which is called Please Help Me Choose. So if that's not what you wanted to hear, now's your chance. Okay. All right, so I'd like to start off this morning by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet and we work, and recognise their continuing connection to the land, the water and the community. And I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. So the world and its careers is changing so quickly, and it can be hard to imagine what you might be doing in 5 years' time. So this is particularly true for people who are school leavers, but it's also true for those of us who are perhaps completing our first career and looking for a change. So what we'd like to do today is perhaps help you to make some decisions and help you succeed. What we want you to take from today's session is there's lots of options, there's lots of pathways, there's lots of services here to help you, and hopefully after you leave the session today, you can start your journey at USC. I'm going to now move to introducing the panel members. We've got 4 panel members with us today. So on my left here is Dr. Graham Ashford. So Graham is USC's Senior Lecturer in Environmental and Natural Resource Economics. He's also the Associate Dean for Learning and Teaching in the Faculty of Science, Health, Education and Engineering. So Graham's responsible for leading the faculty to enhance learning and teaching and develop high-quality programs and enriched learning environments. Graham's been recognised with national and international awards for his contributions for improving the learning and teaching for our students. Sitting next to Graham is Lauren Koloshi. Now, Lauren has graduated from high school in Gympie in 2012 and went straight into USC's Property and Economic Development degree. So her pathway to study has had a few twists and turns. She's also been busy as a USC Student Ambassador, President of the USC Golden Key Honours Society, founder of Humans of USC. She's a student mentor, a student representative council member, and a host of other things. Scholarships have helped Lauren stay at uni, and just last month she completed her graduate diploma of secondary education, and she's got her dream job in the very chilly Toowoomba. So sitting along from Lauren is Anne Bowden. Anne works at USC's Careers and Employment team, and she's responsible for a range of career programs and activities and providing students with career counselling and planning, helping students with job search techniques, assisting with the preparation of resumes and applications, and she delivers workshops to develop people's career skills. Over her time at the university, Anne has helped thousands of students to identify and prepare for their career opportunities. Lucky last is Helen Schmidt. So Helen's the team leader in our USC Student Centre and is an absolute ninja in responding to student needs for information and support. Over her years at our university, she's heard from and helped with every student inquiry and anxiety that you can possibly imagine. And while the situation might be a little bit different for every student, Helen understands how it might affect your study, and she has options and solutions to help you succeed. So as you can see, this morning we have a very experienced panel. We're going to start off with a general question and then we'll open to questions from you. So first of all, Graham, I'd like to start with you sharing today, how did you arrive at USC? Can you talk us through your career journey, Graham?
Sure, thanks so much. So I'm an environmental resource economist and a specialist in climate change, but that's kind of just one point of the career that I've ended up on. I originally started in engineering and moved over to marketing, and I think it's fairly common with lots of students. Wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do right away. Studied in music engineering a little bit, and then finally, strangely perhaps for some people, really fell in love with economics. So that took me through, I did an undergraduate and postgrad degrees there, and then really it was a lot about the experience that I had working in India, working in developing countries, running projects with foreign governments and UN agencies in India and Africa and China, and working in strange places like North Korea and the high Arctic and so on. And I guess from that, and then eventually through that, coming to Australia and working with some of our amazing scholars here in the international climate change area. But perhaps what I found out about that whole experience was that a lot of your career journey, it will be founded on the skills and knowledge that you get from your initial degree, but really it will be built on your experiences along the way. And in many cases, at least it was for me, that I didn't have the immediate knowledge to do the next project that I was involved in. And so in many ways it's about initiative and professionalism and courage to learn as you go, and that eventually just broadens up your skill set and experiences, and you just sort of follow, if anything, the trajectory that you love.
Thanks, Graham. Lauren, if I can ask you to share with us your journey to USC.
Sure. So I arrived here via a bus. Sorry. When I was in high school, there was this program where you could just jump on a bus, come down to the university, free day of school, why not? But I got here, and with having no intention of actually going to university, I was just mind blown. I couldn't believe the amount of opportunities that I could have by going to university. And I was very skeptical, because I thought, I don't want a big debt. I don't want to start my life with this big debt on me. But when I got here, I realized that that's like the last of my worries. I was in the information sessions going, I want to do this job, I want to do this job. I couldn't choose. Eventually I did choose, but I changed quite a few times. So yeah, I just came here via the encouragement of the staff at USC. Because I was the first person in my family to go to university, there was no real encouragement from my family. They just sort of said, you do what you want to do, it's fine, darling, whatever. And I came to USC and they said, no, look, you have this great potential, and every single one of you out there does have this potential to come and do it. So I didn't think I did, and then I got here and I went, wow, okay, so I'm absolutely loving it. Yeah.
That's great, thanks Lauren. And I'd like you to talk perhaps about the journeys that you've seen for some students as well as your own career journey.
Okay, I guess the first thing I've got to say is that I didn't finish high school, and I dropped out of high school and went and worked in a shop, and then I went overseas for a long time. Then I came back to Australia and I thought, I'm not going to get anywhere without a degree, so I did an undergraduate degree and in a Bachelor of Arts, very generic, and then I went and worked in the government. And then I found the job I really wanted was in development assistance. So I did a master's in development assistance, community development and overseas aid. And I worked in the overseas aid for ages. And same thing, I was working as a project manager in a number of different countries. I spoke different languages, so I was able to do that. And then I after doing all of that traveling, I thought, it's about time to settle down. So then I worked for a short while in an international office at another university, but that was too cold. And I thought, no, I need to get somewhere warm. So I moved up to the Sunshine Coast, and luckily there's a university here. How fantastic is that? So I came in and realized, I think with all of my experience, I could really do something to help. So I did a Master of Career Development, and along the way I did a graduate certificate in career development as well. So from someone that dropped out of school, I ended up with 3 postgraduate qualifications. So when people come up to me, when students come up to me and say, I don't think I'm smart enough, my answer is always, no, that's not right. There's no such thing as not smart enough. It's whether or not you're determined enough. It's, are you determined enough to do that? Are you enjoying your studies enough to actually do it? So that's really what I feel is my role in the 11 years that I've been here, is actually helping to find that determination and helping you to find that excitement that is going to really take you to the next level.
That's great, Anne. Thank you. And last of all, Helen. And Helen, again, if I could ask you to talk from your perspective and from the perspective of students.
Yep. So, like Anne, I've also been here for 11 years. I've been in admin supporting students that whole time at various levels. So I have seen a lot of different students come through, as the intro said, from all different pathways, including my own 2 children coming through, as well as a sister-in-law, as well as a nephew, and as well as his wife. So I've seen a lot of people just within my own family. Nobody in my family had been to university before. I myself, similar to Anne, had dropped out at year 10, had always been in admin. Before I started at the university, I was working for Education Queensland in an admin support role. And I felt that at that stage, 11 years ago, my girls were just about to come to uni, my first one. I wanted to understand a better process and move up to that next area of what they would be doing. So left the primary high school area that I was supporting and then came to the uni. So I have seen a lot of people come through, as I say, people who, my sister-in-law was 40 years old, mother of 4, didn't finish year 10, graduated end of last year out of the nursing program and he's now got a full-time graduate position. And my 2 girls both finished year 12. One finished her degree and then came back and did postgrad in teaching, same as Lauren. He's now been working as a primary teacher in Gladstone for 3 years. And my younger one now, she had 4 change of programs. So please don't think if you come into your program that you can't change along the way. You can.
Same.
Yeah, it can be done. I've seen it multiple times. She ended up working as a journalist at Hervey Bay for 2 years in a community paper up there, and is now working for AMSA, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, as their media liaison officer in Canberra. So there are a lot of ways you can get to where you want to go, and on the way it does change. So please don't feel as if you've come into a program and you're stuck in it. There is always an option that we can help you with. It may take you longer, you may not get all your courses that you've completed as credit, but they are not lost, they are knowledge you have gained. So please don't think that you're stuck and you have no other option but to walk away. There are always options, just ask.
And that's a beautiful segue into our second question, Helen. Thank you for each of you sharing your personal career journeys. As we've touched on, there's some points of uncertainty and perhaps some anxiety along the way. And Lauren, perhaps I can start with you. What was one of the things you were most anxious about before starting study? And perhaps along the way you talked about some changes. If you could share perhaps what some of the triggers were for that and how you addressed those.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first came to USC, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to study. I just knew that I didn't want to be locked into an office job. But on the other hand, I was working in an accounting firm at the time, so I wasn't sure. Came along and I chatted to one of the program advisors, and they mentioned property, economics and development, and I was sold. I started university, I did 6 months of property and went, or maybe not for me. It was great. I loved the degree and I got a lot of support, but it just didn't feel like this is what I wanted to do forever. So I changed. And then I knew that I didn't want to do property, but at the time I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And I had a lot of push from my boss at the time in the accounting firm, and he said, do accounting, do accounting. So I changed to accounting. And I loved accounting, but I didn't want to be stuck in a little cubicle all day. And I was like, I need an option. I can't figure it out. And that's where I went and saw Anne. Anne was a career development officer at the time, is that right? Yeah, and Anne sort of had a chat to me, calmed me down. I'm pretty sure I was crying. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, and I'm stuck here. And she was great. It was fantastic. And I moved into a Bachelor of Business Management. And I got a Bachelor of Business Management with Accounting, Economics and Marketing as my 3 minors. So it sounds a lot, but it still only took me 3.5 years, or only 6 months extra because of all the changes. And yeah, I loved it. Like, once I started marketing, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I started a job at USC as a student ambassador, which is through marketing. And I finished that degree and I was like, this was awesome. Now what do I do? And I just had this desire to teach what I had learnt. So I don't really know what happened, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to do a graduate diploma in education. I know, some people are laughing at me right now. So that was my 4th degree change, and I went into a graduate diploma of education with accounting and maths as my 2 main areas, and I've just been offered a job. I've been working full-time for 2 weeks, so I haven't actually technically graduated yet, but I've already been working. So that was really awesome to get a job offer before graduation. And it's great, 100% fantastic, love it. And my goal after that is to get into a bit more of the recruitment marketing side of it. So teaching kids to start off with, and then maybe here's your pathway to get into university, or here's your options for employment, or yeah, I'm not really sure, but I know that I made the right choice. You think I might be crazy, but I don't really know what to say. I'm just really, really, really happy that I did have these zigzags, and I did say, you know what, it's okay to change. If I'm not happy with it, it's okay to try something else, because I was all within the same degree under like the business banner. It didn't cost me any extra money. It didn't really cost me any extra time. I was just gaining more and more experience in different fields, and I'm really, really happy that I did that. And that's the great thing about choosing a degree like business, because you get so many options to experience different things within that. And yeah, I'm really happy that I did that. So
that's great. Thank you, Lauren. Graham, I might get you to respond to the same sort of question, but perhaps from the perspective of students that you've supported through your programs. Thanks.
Sure. So students, I mean, I think it's my experience that probably the questions that are on people's minds when they come to university are, you know, have I made the right decision? Am I in the right program? Is it going to be too difficult? Do I have the right skills coming in? What kind of career will I get when I come out? I'm sure that's probably what most people are feeling. And so what I would say is maybe it's just good to know how programs are set up a little bit. So for each program that we set up at the university, we develop program graduate outcomes, which means all of the skills and knowledge that you'll need when you graduate to have a career. And those program outcomes are built on, it might be accreditation standards for nursing or for engineering or something, but they're really all about working with employers and industry and experts in the area and comparing to other international and national universities to figure out what is the best skill set for this area. And they include both discipline knowledge, so for example, might be in nutrition and dietetics, but also generic skills and attributes like problem solving and communication and critical thinking and so on. So that's the overall program structure. So, and then the program itself, typically, I mean, it starts, I think perhaps one thing people wonder about is, you look at the outcomes and you think, wow, how will I ever get there? But we know students coming in or people transitioning from other careers need that foundational knowledge. So programs are built starting with broad foundational knowledge in your discipline area and in other areas, and then they progress from there. So it's very much a high support environment. If you need extra assistance and so on, there's enabling classes that run before the semester and then during the semester to give extra help and so on. So the support is there. In terms of the actual curriculum, we have a lot of involvement with industry in designing the curriculum and making the assessment really authentic, the types of things you would be doing in your career when you go along. So I think that's what makes it engaging for students once they come in. And it's very common for students to change around. Indeed, that's why most programs have 4 free electives, not all of them do, to sort of sample around and see is what you're in right now something that's really exciting for you? Would you like to try something else? So there is a fair degree of flexibility to switch around, and that's fairly common. And I think it's really in the classroom and in the field and in the laboratory and when you do your work experience that you really get that excitement and the passion and find out what your career is going to be like. And we try very hard to make that a highly engaging experience, and indeed that's why we're, I think number 4 in the country overall for student satisfaction about the quality of teaching is because we really put a lot of effort into face-to-face and online and really engaging activities. So I would say it's the first step really is to go and get into the program that you think you might be in, and then follow really what you love. And if you're really excited about it, I think that it's typically the case that people don't find it hard, and they work nights and weekends when they really are loving what they're doing.
Thank you, Graham. I think it's probably a good opportunity now perhaps to throw it out to you guys. So you've got a wealth of information here. You've heard some personal journeys, but you've also heard some advice that our panel members have given to students along the way. Are there any questions that you have for the panel, just in relation to perhaps that career journey? How do you make that choice? And then once you're in, how do you decide, is this exactly what I want and perhaps I need to change? What does that mean? So if I can have hands up if you've got a question. We've got roving mics.
Yeah, that works. When you first start your degree, I'm sure possibly a lot of them may vary, but generally, like you were saying, when you first start your degree, when you get that sort of foundational base, general sort of knowledge, do you learn a bit of that and then you choose your majors, minors along the way and decide where you want to specialise as a general rule?
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat the question for the recording, but it's really around when you start your degree, you get that basic foundation knowledge, and then at what point do we choose the minors and majors? And I'll get Graham to answer that question.
Sure, so it will vary by program, but you're absolutely right. Typically, the first semester and the first year in any degree is really introducing the broad discipline knowledge. So if it's in engineering, you're going to be learning about statics and how things operate and some of the math and all that cool stuff, gadgets and so on. If it's in communications or if it's in journalism, really it's about getting across, like being really introduced to the field. And then after that, and so as that goes along, you'll be not only experiencing that discipline knowledge, let's call it journalism or something like that, but you'll actually be getting this other exposure to this broad range of skills that you need. For example, collaborating with other people, or communicating effectively, or problem solving in new areas and so on. So all of these programs are set up that it initially starts out with, with an understanding that you won't perhaps have much experience in that area and that you'll need to build up those skills over time. And that's how any program progresses along. So what I would say is that, and then usually possibly in the first year, but typically by the second year for sure, you will have decided on your major or your minor, depending on your program. And some programs don't have majors or minors, they're quite structured and so on. And then that gives you the opportunity to specialize in an area. So you might have a particular niche interest in something, and a major or a minor really gives you a chance to do that.
Thanks for that.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I find with my teenage children and their friends, they're really hung up on their OP rating, and they feel like if they don't get single-digit OPs, they can't do anything. They're not going to be successful. They can't get in anywhere. Obviously, there are options because there's people here in front of us that haven't even finished high school. So can you just elaborate on what those options or routes are for them to get into their programs with possibly a high OP, but they have a low OP?
Sure. So the question centres around the eligibility into programs and how that links to the OP ratings that people have. So I might get Anne or Helen to answer that question.
I just saw that finger point at me. Thank you, Anne. So, yeah, absolutely. So you can, we have people coming to university who didn't finish year 10, as I say, a mature age, or people who didn't get the OP that they wanted. So if we start with the people who either haven't been at university, hadn't finished year 12 and got an OP and hadn't done anything at TAFE, we've got a program called the Tertiary Preparation Pathway Program. And everything at university, and anyone who comes here, you will learn, we shorten everything. So we call it the TPP program, okay? It is a bridging program which will allow you to come in and undertake 4 TPP designed and structured courses that will allow you to get a grade, which we then convert into a rank. So the better you do, the higher the rank you get. There is a cap on it, so unlike at year 12, you can't get equivalent of an OP1, but you can get a high enough rank in order to come into most programs at the university. If you were saying you wanted to get into dietetics, Bachelor of Nutrition and Dietetics, and you had never been at school, you could come in, do the TPP program. If you got really good grades in all your courses, that still won't get you the rank to get in, but then you can go into the nutrition program, do 12 months worth of study under nutrition, and if you do well under there, we look at your rank again and revise your rank, and if you have the rank then to get into dietetics, you can do what we call an internal change of program and move across. So absolutely. So any study that you do at USC that is successful will improve your rank, okay? So there are options. People who have done a Certificate 3 at TAFE, that can give them a rank to get into some programs at the university. Certificate 4 and a diploma give you higher ranks. A diploma will give you a rank of 82. And off the top of my head, I can't remember what a Cert 4 gives you. But there are options to come in. You don't have to come through TPP. You don't have to finish year 12. You can go to TAFE and get a rank to come through that way. So, and there's also other things like they call a stat test, which QTAC do. But we would probably recommend that you come through the TPP program. We talk to you on an individual basis and see what your requirements are. Yep.
That's great, thanks. Any other questions?
Sorry, I can't.
So is the second part of the question if your OP isn't high enough?
Yep. Okay, so again, if you didn't get the OP that you required or that you needed to get into your preferred program, we would tell you to come and have a chat with us or go into another program. So can you give me an example? No? Okay, all right, so I'll give you one.
Elaborate on that if you like.
Sorry?
I can elaborate on that if you like.
Yeah.
So say, for example, myself, so I didn't do tertiary year 11 and 12, so therefore I didn't actually have an OP or a ranking. So instead of that, I had a Certificate 4, like you were saying. That gave me a ranking. I came in through a Bachelor of Nutrition and then transferred over into a Bachelor of Nutrition and Dietetics. So there's always other pathways.
Yeah, and the same as I said before, if you did come out of year 12 and you got it, say, an OP 16, but you needed an OP 10 to get in a program, we would say undertake 12 months worth of study with USC, doing potentially 8 courses over the 12 months. That will improve your rank if you're successful in those courses, and therefore we will reassess your rank and you're likely to get across there. Okay? So there are always options. Just because you didn't get what you thought you needed or what you wanted at school doesn't mean that university is not for you. It absolutely is. And we've seen that over and over and over again with people who hated school, who didn't participate, who didn't engage in the process, who didn't get OPs, who have come through and done the TPP program or gone to TAFE and done a certificate or a diploma and then found what they wanted to do and then have excelled. So, yeah, absolutely. There is always another way.
That's great. Another one up the back.
Just a quick kind of add-on to what you're saying is there are similar pathways for when you've done your undergrad and are looking at postgrad. So for example, you've done a bachelor but not necessarily an honours. What sort of pathways would nudge you into getting into the postgrad eligibility?
Okay, so Graham, we might direct that question to you. It's just about the linking once you've completed an undergrad qualification. How do you decide where to go to next?
Sure. So again, it will depend on the particular program that you're interested in. For example, let's say you did a Bachelor of Science degree and were interested in teaching, you could go into a postgraduate, a Master of Teaching, and then become a qualified teacher. If you were, perhaps you did a Bachelor of Science and were interested in progressing on, perhaps to a Master's or a PhD, you can do an honors program in many of the different areas, and that's really a preparation for research. And it's honestly, watching students come through, it's very typical, if I can, that students will come through, will be quite uncertain in the first year, and then they'll begin to kind of understand their program better in the second year. In the third year, they're really excited about all of the stuff they're learning. It's at a much more advanced level. They're exploring knowledge and problem solving in really complicated areas in unfamiliar territory. And then for many people, it's just not enough. I mean, they can't, I mean, you might think this sounds funny, but they don't want to finish university right away, and they're quite excited about doing something like an honors project. So that's where our academics work with those students to identify really cool and interesting research problems, and then they undertake those for a year and a half, something like that, to produce a bit of research work. Now, the honors in many disciplines, it can be a pathway right into a PhD program, and that again may sound quite daunting for many people, but really it's all about the skills and knowledge that you pick up along the way. And you know, in several years, you'd actually be quite surprised, perhaps, how far everybody comes in advancing their skills and really getting some excitement about the area that they go into, that they want to go into. So there's honors, masters, graduate diplomas, graduate certificates. We've set up many of the programs to have sort of entry and exit points. So you might come into a master's program, let's say it's a master of teaching or a master's of education, and you might decide, well, I just want to do a bit of study in Montessori or Steiner, and you could exit with, for instance, a grad cert or a grad diploma. So there's a lot of pathways to the post-grad level. And really the first thing is completing an undergraduate program, and then, you know, deciding really what excites you, and then progressing from there. It's a good question.
So we might segue into another question for the panel. It's around how do you decide? So what we've talked about this morning is I guess, deciding to commence the journey hopefully at USC for your undergrad course. And we've also now talked about moving through an academic career through honours and masters and PhD for some people. And I'm wondering if you can talk to the panel about perhaps some of the advice you've given to students or prospective students in terms of how do I decide what to do? I'm in the front door, but how do I decide what to do next?
Thank you very much. I would definitely like to do that. When it's a big group of people like this, obviously I can't speak to everyone individually, but what we have got on our website, on the USC website, if you go into the little magnifying glass in the corner there, on the top corner, and just type in the word career, and what'll happen is you'll come up with a page, career development. It's easy, just remember the word career. Career development will come up, and you can progress through that page, and it'll take you to a couple of little tests, character assessments, for instance, so that you can find out, well, what is my character type? What is it that I really enjoy doing? What actually am I good at? What is it that I think I would like to do? But you don't even have to answer those questions. Just go through some of these little character assessments, and then it'll come up with, this is your main character type, and based on this, these are some of the things you should consider. So it gives you a few things to think about, and it's usually, when I do this test with students on a one-on-one basis, or prospective students, they go, wow, that is just me. And so these are very quick, they're very accurate. And so it's really a good way to think about, without thinking too deeply and answering these things off the top of your head, you get a really good, accurate result. And then you sort of have at least an idea. You sort of think, okay, well, I'm actually somebody that's good at researching, or I'm somebody that's really good with my hands, or I'm somebody that's a carer, so I should be in the caring type roles. These are the sorts of things that you need to start to then investigate. And then from that, the next step is to look at the degrees that we are offering, have a look at the courses, and go, oh, wow, that looks really exciting. I'd love to do that. And listen to your gut feeling. If you're sort of going, oh, can't face doing any of those, then don't do it. Because if you can't enjoy what you're studying, you're setting yourself up for doing work that you're not going to enjoy. Life's too short for that, right? So just think about wow, this is really exciting. These are some of the things I want to do. So it grabs you out of bed in the morning and goes, yeah, this is it, I'm off to study or I'm off to work. How exciting is that?
That's great. Thanks, Anne. Does anyone have any questions for Anne in relation to that decision point that you might be facing? I've lost my roving mic person. Thank you.
And I was just wondering if you have appointments only with enrolled USC students, or if you have a Year 12 student that possibly wants to come to USC but they're not sure where they want to go, do you consult with them too?
Absolutely, sorry.
So the question's just around whether people at our USC Careers Centre see prospective students as well as currently enrolled students.
Thank you. Yes, we do. We see prospective students as well as currently enrolled, as well as alumni students that have completed their degree. We'll see them up to 2 years after they've completed. So yes, we're very happy to see prospective students. How you do that is, again, you'll see on the USC website, there's an information at usc.edu.au. Send an email, we'll get in, I'll put your phone number on, we'll get in touch with you and organise an appointment.
Thanks, Anne. Any other questions for Anne at this point? No? Okay, we're getting towards the end of the session, so what I'd like to do is hear from each of the panel members again what advice they would give. Perhaps if you're sitting in the audience and you're thinking, yes, university's for me, but can I do it? Okay, Helen, we might start with you. When you're seeing students and they're perhaps not so sure, they've made that commitment, but then that doubt creeps in, what sort of advice do you give to them?
Yeah, I think it's important that, first of all, that you are enjoying what you've chosen. There is always the option, if you are a little concerned, as we said, to speak to careers. We've also got some really good government websites which have got really good information about choosing pathways, the types of opportunities, job opportunities that are coming up. It goes right down to the detail of, how many % they reckon are going to retire by a certain age, what the salaries are. So that gives you sort of a bit of employment opportunity information. But always seek help. So if you're struggling with it, there is no reason to continue struggling on your own. Make connections with your teachers and your tutors. Ask the question. If you're sitting in a tute class and you've just not got a concept that was delivered that week or, the week before and you've tried and tried, ask. That's why these guys are being paid, these academics. They're there to help you. I am, aren't I? I'm correct, absolutely. That's why we pay them. They are there to answer those questions for you. We have a lot of support with regards to pop-up squads around the campus at different times for different subjects like the sciences and things like that, and the business ones as well. So there is opportunities there for people to get help. We've got time management skill workshops that run throughout the semester. We've got people down in student wellbeing who can give counselling, and if you've got a disability, there's help. There's so much help here, it's ridiculous. You just need to come in and ask. And we would direct you. I run Student Central over in C Block. We have people coming in all the time saying, I just don't know what to do. We can help you with that information. We can give you that next step to go to, but you just need to ask. There is support here. And you don't also, if you're full-time and you have to be full-time and everybody needs to work, or most people need to work to support their learning, you can reduce your load. You don't have to do 4 courses a semester every semester and work, 30 hours a week or 20 hours a week as well as raise a family. Everybody has different stories and needs to choose their pathway differently. And I think that's what's important. Just because you came in with a cohort of these people in this program doesn't mean you have to finish when they finish. Take your time, do it well.
That's great advice, Helen. Thanks, Lauren. I might just ask your perspective as a recent graduate on that question, just in terms of, what helped you make that decision, and perhaps do you have any regrets, or would you do anything differently next time?
Honestly, I don't think I would do anything differently. Even though my pathway, as you said, was very zigzagged, I learnt so much by going through that. It was incredible. I think what helped me make all of my decisions is just getting in there and having a go. I would just sign up to everything and I would just, go to all the social events and go to all the information things and don't be afraid to ask questions. And I was always, like, oh, they don't have time to help me, but that's why they're here. And you don't have to just ask us, like today. Anyone in a blue shirt raving around today has a story to tell. They all have come to USC through a different pathway, maybe a pathway very similar to you, and we all want to help you and want to share our information that we have. So yeah, I just think jump in, have a go. You never know until you start, and it might not be as scary as you think. Yeah.
So Graham, we might close with your thoughts on that topic as an academic here at the university.
Thank you. So perhaps maybe some of the advice I would give is to be active in your program, in your education, and in your career. And I think that students that I see that are really successful and really highly engaged and end up getting the exciting careers that they want are ones that take the initiative and really take all the opportunities that this few years that you're at the university provides to you. So most of the careers that are out there, really 90% of them you will never have heard of before, right? They're little tiny niche careers. Who's the person that negotiates the Biodiversity Convention or the Antarctic Treaty or whatever like that? What is that program that leads you to that position? Who's the person that builds designs the hull of a sailing boat in the America's Cup? There, perhaps an engineer. I mean, there's just a million careers that you will not ever have heard of. So the main thing is to investigate the type of area that you want to work in. Do you want to work internationally? Do you want to work locally? Do you prefer to be in the lab? Do you want to be working with people? Do you want to be working with kids? Do you want, for instance, at a local council? What kinds of areas and what types of tasks really excite you? And then you begin to look around. Is it business? Is it engineering? Is it science? Do you want to be in the field? Do you do good with animals? What exactly would that be? And then from there, really, it's about really immersing yourself in all of the courses. So it's important to note that most of the academics at the university have these really amazing and rich career backgrounds, and they themselves have had this very sort of circuitous path to get there. So there's an incredible wealth of experience to draw on from all of these different people. And often I find that students aren't kind of strategic enough in how they're studying. So for example, you'll have a huge range of different assessment tasks over your program. Many of those you'll get to choose your own topic area of research. And I would really say choose the types of topics that would prepare you, for the job interview 2 or 3 years down the road, right? To think strategically about things and don't kind of just sort of let the university program wash over you. Really be active in steering what you want to study and talking to academics, attending classes, really engaging with the material and so on. I really think that the students that actively get into their educations progress much more quickly, do much better, and so on. So I think that if you can do that, and we know that many students study part-time and so on, and our programs are set up to allow for that, to take advantage of work experience or overseas travel opportunities, the GO program and so on, really I think that's the pathway to having a really engaging career. And just to remember that this is 3 or 4 years, early in your life or whatever it may be, that helps put you on a particular pathway. But that's really just a tiny bit of the overall lifelong learning that you're going to be doing to get the sort of career that really is meaningful for you and gets you where you want to go.
That's great. Thanks, Graham. I know that there's sessions at 11 o'clock that you're all really eager to be at, so we'll do a quick wrap-up. Hopefully today has shown you that there are a lot of us who have grappled with the same decisions that you all have. You're trying to work out your journey. Look out for a person in a blue shirt today and they will be able to help you. I'd just like to thank Graham, Lauren, Anne and Helen for participating in the panel today. Enjoy the rest of the open day.
What did first year teach me?
That your first year at uni is really important.
Uni is more than programs, lectures and textbooks.
My brain's bigger than I thought.
And you can fit all that uni stuff in there.
USC. Rise and shine.